Today we are going to talk about a thriller film called I Spit on Your Grave from 2010. The girl sets off on her journey. Having lost her way, she stops at the nearest gas station. There she is, met by a young employee named Johnny. Seeing a pretty face, he immediately turns on all his charm. When it doesn't work, he is genuinely upset because his friends Andy and Stanley are watching. When Jennifer asks for directions, he points her in the right direction. When she makes a careless move, she accidentally hits a water tank and douses Johnny. His friends literally can't stop laughing. After apologizing, Jennifer drives away. The young writer Jennifer meets the old man Earl. The man hands her a map and the keys to a country house. She was specifically looking for a quiet, secluded place to start working on a new book. After saying goodbye to the old man, when she finally arrives, she unpacked her things and immediately started working. On the very first day, she is inspired, and in the evening, talking to a friend on the phone, she admits that the new environment is so pleasant that she should write her first book here. Their conversation is interrupted by a sound from the barn. The girl quickly says goodbye to her friend. The writer checks all her new possessions, making sure that no one is around. She returns to the house to continue her work. Jennifer starts the next morning by jogging through the woods. Her attention is drawn to an abandoned place with a pile of dusty tools. When she returns home, she finds an unpleasant surprise. The sewerage system is out of order, so dirty water flows from the tap and the toilet stops working altogether. Trying to call a repair crew, she drops her phone into the water and it stops working. A young man from the neighboring town, Matthew, comes to the writer's aid. He suffers from mental retardation, but he is still able to fix the plumbing. Seeing that everything is working, Jennifer kisses the boy on the cheek with joy, and he runs away in embarrassment without even taking payment or saying goodbye. Meanwhile, Johnny, Andy, and Stanley pass the time doing useless things on the lake. After a while, Matthew joins them. He proudly tells them about how the city girl kissed him. Stanley, in turn, shows the video he made last night. It shows a naked Jennifer cleaning her soiled shorts. It turns out that a young man was spying on her and filming everything. It was him she heard talking on the phone. His friends start making fun of Johnny, assuring him that a city girl would never like him and that she preferred Matthew. The guy immediately starts to get angry. He assures them that the girl will be his if he just wants it. Meanwhile, Jennifer continues to work, and when the inspiration passes, she takes out a cigar. Relaxed, she doesn't notice how she falls asleep in the living room. When she wakes up in the middle of the night, she has an uneasy feeling and starts to close all the doors. At that moment, 4 boys appear in the house. While his friends mock the defenseless and frightened writer, Stanley films everything on camera. The guys mock the unfortunate girl, forcing her to drink alcohol and putting a revolver in her mouth. At some point, Jennifer manages to escape, and she quickly runs through the night forest. In the morning, she runs into the sheriff and Earl, who have just gone hunting. The old man recognizes the girl as his client, who rents a house from him. The sheriff calms the girl down and assures her that she is safe now. Jennifer herself begins to talk about the bastards who broke into her house in the middle of the night and started abusing her. The sheriff tells Earl to go back and asks the writer to go into the house with him to find out what really happened. There, he finds evidence in the form of a decent supply of alcohol and several cigarettes in the house. The policeman takes this as a sign that Jennifer was allegedly intoxicated, which is why she imagined all this. He puts the girl against the wall and begins to allegedly search her. At that moment, other guys enter the house. It turned out that the sheriff is the leader of this gang of bad people. Moreover, he behaves much more cruelly than the boys. Having struck the unfortunate girl several strong blows, the man forces the frightened Matthew to have fun with the girl. Stanley was filming everything that was happening. Jennifer faints. When she comes to, there is no one in the house. With a shaky gait, she goes outside and sees that they are waiting for her. They continue to abuse the girl and then take turns having fun with her. As the men talk, it becomes clear that they are going to eliminate her. Crushed and devastated, Jennifer slowly gets up from the ground and walks to the river. She silently approaches the bridge and without making a sound, jumps into the muddy water. Deciding that the girl has drowned, the thieves start looking for the body. After a few hours, they realize that the undercurrent most likely carried the body down the river. The sheriff becomes furious because if this body surfaces somewhere, he may be in big trouble. He pulls the tape out of Stanley's camera and angrily stomps on it, and then tells the boys to go to the writer's house and destroy all the evidence. When all of Jennifer's belongings, including her car, are burned, Johnny asks his friends to keep an eye on Matthew so that he doesn't tell anyone about what happened. The next day, the sheriff visits Earl and gives him back the keys to the house. He assures him that the writer hastily packed all her things and left, leaving behind bottles and cigars. The old man doesn't ask too many questions, because if the client didn't come for the money, then he can keep it. A month later, the group of criminals continues to live a normal life. They have fun and get to know their clients. No one but Matthew even remembers what happened. One night, Earl calls the sheriff and informs him that his friend Jennifer is looking for the girl because she never returned home and hasn't been in touch for more than a month. Promising to look into it, the sheriff continues to go about his business. Meanwhile, Stanley complains to his friends that his video camera has disappeared, but he hardly ever lets go of it. The only thing that worries him is that there was a tape in the camera that recorded everything he did with Jennifer. It turns out that the sheriff had trampled the blank tape that day. Johnny attacks his friend with his fists because his stupidity can ruin them all. In the evening, sitting in front of the TV, the boy hears a strange sound outside. He goes out on the porch and sees a dead bird. Throwing it away, he returns to the house, but the sounds continue. This time, Johnny finds Jennifer's slipper. Sheriff comes home late as usual. In the evening, his wife reports that they received a package with a cassette inside. She couldn't get it to play through her regular VCR, so she asks her husband to help. Looking at the inscription, the man becomes very nervous. The next day, the whole gang gets together. After discussing Johnny's case and the tape, the men come to the conclusion that Matthew is the one who is messing with them. In the afternoon, the sheriff goes hunting with Earl, as they had agreed. The old man begins to ask questions about Jennifer, and Sheriff eliminates him, deciding to get rid of his friend's excessive curiosity. At this time, the girl lived in the forest all the time and came up with a plan of revenge. She captures Matthew, taking advantage of his peculiarities. After that, she shows herself to Stanley, luring him into a trap. The boy begins to call for Andy's help. Jennifer waits for him and stuns him with a baseball bat. Stanley finds himself tied to a tree. At this time, the girl forces him to eat a dead rat, and then she does very unpleasant things to him with fish hooks. She leaves him in this position, filming everything that happens on a video camera. Birds start pecking at the boy's open eyes, causing him wild pain. At this moment, Andy is lying over an old filled bathtub with some kind of solution. The girl dips his head into the liquid, repeating the same words he said when he was hurting her. Eventually, the boy falls into the water and stops moving forever in terrible agony. Having dealt with the two offenders, Jennifer takes on Johnny. She knocks him out near the house and drags him to the barn she found in the woods in the first days after moving in. He will undergo a very painful procedure of pulling out his teeth. After that, the ruthless girl makes sure that he will never be able to reproduce. Jennifer calls the sheriff to the park where she beats him with a bat and takes him to a forest cabin. There, she ties him to a table and inserts a shotgun into a hole not intended for that purpose. The girl ties a rope to the trigger and attaches the other end of the rope to Matthew, who is unconscious at the time. When Jennifer goes outside, she looks indifferently in front of her. When she hears a gunshot, she realizes that revenge is complete. After all, Matthew, who tried to get up, launched a shotgun that killed both him and the sheriff with one shot.